Look around at your life right now. Your health, your relationships, your career, your mindset, it's all a reflection of what you've been willing to tolerate. And the moment you decide that good enough is no longer good enough, everything changes. Because raising your standards isn't just about wanting more, it's about demanding more from yourself and refusing to settle. High achievers don't just stumble into success, they decide to hold themselves to a higher standard. They say, this is who I am, this is how I operate, this is what I expect of myself. And they don't back down from it. The question is, have you defined your standards? Or are you letting life set them for you? If you leave room for excuses, guess what? You'll take them. If you leave room for laziness, it will creep in. But when you draw a hard line and say, this is my standard and nothing less will be accepted, that's when the shift happens. What are your non-negotiables? What is absolutely unacceptable for your life moving forward? Take a look at the people around you. Do they challenge you? Do they inspire you to be better? Or are they reinforcing low standards? Because if you're surrounded by people who make excuses, who play small, who settle, guess what? That energy rubs off on you. You need to immerse yourself in an environment that demands your best. Raising your standards means doing what's right, not what's easy. It means pushing through resistance, holding yourself accountable, and showing up powerfully even when no one's watching. The strongest people don't rely on motivation, they rely on commitment. What would your life look like if you committed to excellence no matter what? Listen, you can't improve what you don't measure. High performers don't just set goals, they constantly track their progress. They ask, am I living up to my own standard today? And if the answer is no, they course correct immediately. If you're not checking in with yourself regularly, you're drifting. And drifting leads to mediocrity. You will always act in alignment with who you believe you are. If you see yourself as disciplined, you'll act disciplined. If you see yourself as successful, you'll show up with that energy. But if your identity is weak, your standards will be weak. So ask yourself, who do I need to become to raise my standards? And start living that identity today. Some people think high standards are restrictive, but the truth? Discipline is the ultimate freedom. When you control your habits, your mindset, your decisions, you gain control over your destiny. You don't live at the mercy of circumstances. You become the architect of your future. The life you are living right now is a direct reflection of the standards you have set for yourself, whether consciously or unconsciously. Every decision you make, every action you take, and every result you produce is dictated by what you are willing to accept as normal, as acceptable, and as expected in your life. If you want to change your future, you don't start with setting goals. You start with raising your standards. Think about it. Why do some people consistently excel while others struggle? Why do some people thrive in adversity while others crumble under pressure? It's not just intelligence, talent, or luck. It's the internal bar they set for themselves. A person who demands excellence from themselves will not tolerate laziness, excuses, or mediocrity. A person who holds themselves to a higher standard will wake up earlier, work harder, push further, and refuse to accept anything less than their best effort. Their standard is what drives their daily habits, their choices, and ultimately their results. Your standards determine the quality of your relationships, your finances, your health, and your personal growth. If you expect deep, meaningful relationships, you will not engage in toxic interactions, settle for unfulfilling connections, or accept dishonesty. If you hold yourself to a standard of financial responsibility, you won't waste money, live in debt, or make impulsive purchases that sabotage your future. If your standard for health is high, you won't tolerate skipping workouts, eating junk food daily, or neglecting your well-being. The level at which you demand excellence from yourself dictates the outcomes you achieve in life. Look at any high achiever, any person who has transformed their life, and you will find that at some point they raised their standards. They drew a line in the sand and said, I will no longer accept this version of myself. I expect more. This shift wasn't just about wanting more, it was about requiring more. Because there's a difference between wanting success and demanding it. There's a difference between hoping for change and deciding that change is non-negotiable. The moment you elevate your standards, you alter the trajectory of your life. The problem is, most people never consciously set their standards. Instead, they adopt them from their surroundings, their upbringing, and their past experiences. They settle for what's familiar instead of striving for what's possible. If everyone around them operates at a low level, they assume that's normal. If they've never seen a higher level of discipline, success, or fulfillment, they assume it's out of reach. And this is where the danger lies, because when you accept low standards as reality, you unknowingly trap yourself in a life that's beneath your potential. But the truth is, you are always in control of your standards. You can raise them at any moment. You can decide today that you will no longer tolerate anything that keeps you stuck. You can set a new benchmark for what is acceptable in your health, your relationships, your career, and your personal growth. And the moment you do, everything begins to shift, because your mind, your habits, and your decisions will start aligning with this new level of expectation. The question is, are you willing to raise your standards? Because until you do, your life will remain exactly as it is. Most people struggle not because they lack ambition, talent, or opportunities, but because they lack clarity. Clarity is the invisible force that separates high achievers from those who wander aimlessly through life. When you are crystal clear about what you want, why you want it, and how you're going to get it, you unlock a level of focus, energy, and determination that few people ever tap into. Without clarity, you drift. With clarity, you dominate. Clarity starts with defining exactly what you want in every area of your life. Most people have vague aspirations. They say things like, I want to be successful, or I want to be happy. But what does that even mean? Success looks different for everyone. Happiness is not one size fits all. If you don't define it for yourself, you'll end up chasing someone else's version of it. And worse, you'll never know when you've actually achieved it. You must get specific. What does success look like for you? How much money do you want to earn? What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? What kind of relationships do you want to build? What level of health and fitness do you demand for yourself? The more specific you get, the more power you gain. Think of clarity like a high-powered laser. A scattered beam of light doesn't do much, but a focused laser can cut through steel. Your focus works the same way. If you wake up every day uncertain about your direction, distracted by a million different possibilities, or unsure of what actions to take, you waste energy. Your mind spins in circles, overthinking, second-guessing, and procrastinating. But the moment you gain clarity, everything changes. You wake up with purpose. You know exactly what steps to take. You don't waste time on things that don't serve your mission. You move with speed, confidence, and precision. Clarity isn't just about knowing what you want. It's about knowing why you want it. A goal without a strong reason behind it is just a wish. When challenges arise, when motivation fades, when obstacles stand in your way, it's your why that keeps you pushing forward. People with a strong why don't quit when it gets hard. They fight harder. They don't get distracted by meaningless pursuits. They stay locked in. If you don't know why you want something, you won't fight for it. And if you won't fight for it, you'll never achieve it. Beyond knowing what you want and why you want it, clarity requires a strategy. It's not enough to have a dream. You need a plan. What steps will you take? What habits will you adopt? What skills do you need to develop? What sacrifices are you willing to make? Too many people fail because they rely on motivation instead of strategy. Motivation fades, but a solid plan keeps you moving forward. Clarity turns big dreams into actionable steps. It breaks down overwhelming goals into daily disciplines. It takes the abstract and makes it tangible. Most people never experience the power of true clarity because they never take the time to sit down and create it. They operate in a constant state of reaction, responding to life as it happens, instead of designing the life they want. They let circumstances dictate their direction instead of choosing their own path. But the reality is, without clarity, you are not in control of your future. You are at the mercy of distractions, influences, and randomness. When you lack clarity, you waste years chasing things that don't fulfill you, stuck in patterns that don't serve you, and living at a fraction of your potential. But the moment you take control of your clarity, when you define exactly who you want to be, what you want to achieve, why it matters, and how you will get there, you tap into an unstoppable force within you. Every great achievement, every major breakthrough, every transformation in history started with a moment of clarity. And that clarity is available to you the moment you decide to claim it. Your life is a direct reflection of what you allow, what you tolerate, and what you refuse to compromise on. The standards you set for yourself dictate everything, from your daily habits to your long-term results. And at the core of those standards are your non-negotiables. The rules, principles, and expectations you set that are not up for discussion, not up for debate, and not up for compromise. The moment you define and enforce your non-negotiables, you take control of your life at a level most people never experience. Most people fail to reach their potential because they allow too much wiggle room in their commitments. They say they'll work out, but if they're tired, they skip it. They say they'll save money, but if something tempting comes along, they splurge. They say they want success, but when things get difficult, they let themselves off the hook. That's because they treat their commitments as preferences rather than non-negotiables. And preferences don't build greatness, non-negotiables do. A non-negotiable is a hard line. It is a rule you set for yourself that must be followed no matter how you feel, no matter the circumstances, no matter what distractions arise. It's an expectation that does not waver. Whether you're motivated or exhausted, inspired or frustrated, busy or free, it's a decision that removes the option of failure. When something becomes non-negotiable, you stop debating with yourself, you stop looking for excuses, you stop allowing yourself to fall back into bad habits. You don't wake up asking, should I do this today? Because the answer is already decided. Think about the most successful, disciplined, and high-performing people in any field. They all have non-negotiables. A top athlete doesn't wake up and wonder if they should train today. It's already decided. A great entrepreneur doesn't let distractions take over their focus. It's already decided. A person committed to their health doesn't play games with their diet. It's already decided. Their non-negotiables shape their actions, and their actions shape their results. But here's the problem. Most people never take the time to define their non-negotiables. They have vague intentions but no hard rules. They let their emotions dictate their behavior. They allow external circumstances to control their decisions. And when life throws challenges at them, they bend, they break, and they slip back into old patterns. The difference between the people who achieve lasting success and those who don't is commitment to non-negotiables. When you decide what is absolutely required in your life, everything changes. If your non-negotiable is that you exercise 5 days a week, you don't skip the gym because it's raining or because you're tired. If your non-negotiable is that you don't settle for toxic relationships, you don't entertain negativity or disrespect. If your non-negotiable is that you never let a day go by without improving yourself, then you find a way to learn, grow, and evolve no matter what's happening around you. These commitments create discipline, and discipline creates freedom. The key to powerful non-negotiables is specificity. Saying, I want to be healthier isn't enough. You need to define what that means. Does it mean you never eat processed food? Does it mean you wake up at 5 a.m. every day to work out? Does it mean you drink a gallon of water daily? The clearer your non-negotiables, the more powerful they become. Vague goals lead to vague results. Precision leads to progress. Another critical aspect of non-negotiables is enforcement. It's not enough to set them. You must uphold them at all costs. The moment you let yourself slide just this once, you weaken your own standard. And when your standard weakens, so do your results. You must become the kind of person who honors their commitments, even when no one is watching. You must be someone who follows through, not just when it's convenient, but when it's difficult. Your non-negotiables should challenge you. They should push you. They should force you to rise above the level you've been operating at. Because the truth is, if your life isn't where you want it to be right now, it's because your standards have been too low and your non-negotiables have been too weak. But the moment you decide what is truly non-negotiable for you, everything begins to shift. Your mindset sharpens, your discipline strengthens, your results accelerate, because when you commit to a higher standard and refuse to compromise, you step into a version of yourself that is unstoppable. The people you spend the most time with shape your mindset, your habits, and ultimately your destiny. Whether you realize it or not, your environment dictates your elevation. If you surround yourself with people who are complacent, negative, or unmotivated, it will drag you down, no matter how ambitious you are. But when you intentionally place yourself in a circle of excellence, people who challenge you, push you, and expect greatness from you, everything in your life begins to shift. Excellence is contagious, but so is mediocrity. If you spend enough time with people who make excuses, you will start making excuses. If you're constantly around people who procrastinate, complain, and settle for average, you will begin to absorb their mindset. You won't even realize it happening at first. It starts subtly. Maybe you start accepting a lower standard of effort. Maybe you start rationalizing why you're not pushing harder. Maybe you begin believing that success is just luck, or that working hard isn't worth it. Over time, without even noticing, your potential gets buried under the weight of the wrong environment. But when you surround yourself with high achievers, everything changes. Excellence forces you to level up. When you're in a room where people demand more from themselves, it forces you to demand more from yourself. When you're surrounded by individuals who are disciplined, driven, and relentless in their pursuit of greatness, you start adopting their mindsets, their habits, and their expectations. You stop making excuses because no one around you is making excuses. You stop procrastinating because the people in your circle are executing at a high level. You start raising your standards, not because someone tells you to, but because the energy of excellence makes anything less than your best feel unacceptable. One of the fastest ways to elevate your life is to upgrade your environment. If you want to be fit, spend time with people who prioritize their health. If you want to be successful in business, immerse yourself in a community of entrepreneurs and high performers. If you want to develop mental toughness, engage with people who embrace challenges instead of avoiding them. Your environment isn't just physical, it's psychological, emotional, and energetic. The conversations you have, the beliefs you hear reinforced, the expectations that are normalized, all of it influences how you think and act. Most people underestimate the power of their inner circle. They assume that friendships and relationships are just about connection, about having fun, about familiarity. But every relationship is either pulling you forward or holding you back. Every person you keep close is either an asset to your growth or a liability to your progress. This is why successful people are intentional about who they surround themselves with. They don't just let relationships happen by accident. They seek out mentors, masterminds, and communities that challenge them. They distance themselves from negativity, drama, and mediocrity. They create an environment where greatness is the norm, not the exception. The truth is, if you are the most disciplined, most ambitious, or most successful person in your circle, you're in the wrong circle. You should be constantly learning from people who are ahead of you. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Growth happens when you are stretched, when you are challenged, when you are held to a standard that forces you to become better. The most powerful transformations don't come from self-motivation alone. They come from exposure to something greater than what you've known. Your inner circle influences more than just your work ethic. It shapes your mindset, your beliefs, and even your identity. If you're surrounded by people who don't believe in themselves, who settle for less, who think success is impossible, that energy infects you. But when you're around people who are playing the game of life at a high level, who believe in possibilities, who push limits and defy expectations, you start to believe in a different reality. You start to see what's possible, and you begin to operate at a level you never imagined before. Your future is being shaped right now by the people around you. If you're serious about success, about leveling up, about raising your standards, the first step is looking at who is in your life. Who are you learning from? Who are you modeling? Who are you allowing to influence your mindset, your habits, your beliefs? Because whether you realize it or not, the people in your environment are either reinforcing your greatness or reinforcing your limitation. Energy is the invisible force that drives everything you do. It determines how you show up in the world, how you execute on your goals, how you interact with others, and how much you accomplish in a day. Your energy dictates your success, your happiness, and your ability to create the life you want. If your energy is low, everything feels harder. Challenges seem overwhelming, motivation fades, and procrastination takes over. But when your energy is high, you move with confidence, attack your goals with passion, and operate at a level most people can't sustain. If you want to change your life, start by changing your energy. Most people never take control of their energy. They wake up tired, go through their day drained, and end their nights exhausted, never realizing that they have the power to elevate their state. They assume that energy is something that just happens to them, something dictated by external circumstances, their genetics, or their environment. But high performers understand that energy is created. It's a choice, a practice, a standard that must be cultivated daily. Think about the people who inspire you the most. Do they move through life sluggishly, reacting to everything with low enthusiasm? Or do they bring energy, excitement, and power to everything they do? The most successful people in the world don't just have skills and talent, they have energy. They bring a contagious electric force to their work, their relationships, and their daily habits. They aren't just productive, they are fully engaged. They don't just go through the motions, they attack life with vitality, and that's why they achieve at a level others don't. Your energy affects everything, your mindset, your confidence, your discipline, your ability to handle stress. When your energy is low, you make excuses, you hesitate, you let fear and doubt creep in. But when your energy is high, you operate from a position of strength. You see solutions instead of problems. You take action instead of overthinking. You lead instead of follow. You don't get easily discouraged because your momentum is too strong. So how do you raise your energy? It starts with your physical energy. Your body is the foundation of everything you do. If you're constantly tired, sluggish, or unhealthy, you cannot operate at your highest level. You need to fuel yourself like a high performer. That means prioritizing exercise, not as an option, but as a non-negotiable. Movement generates energy. The more active you are, the more alive you feel. That means optimizing your nutrition, eating clean, whole foods that fuel your mind and body, rather than processed junk that drains you. That means mastering your sleep, not treating rest as an afterthought, but as a key pillar of your success. Your physical energy is the engine of everything else in your life, but raising your energy goes beyond just the physical. It's also about mental and emotional energy. Every thought you entertain, every conversation you engage in, every piece of information you consume either increases or decreases your energy. If you constantly expose yourself to negativity, gossip, fear, and doubt, your energy will be depleted. If you engage with people who drain you, your momentum will suffer. If you let distractions, social media, and useless habits control your time, you will lose the mental clarity needed to perform at a high level. To raise your energy, you must become intentional about what you allow into your mind. That means feeding your brain with empowering information, books, podcasts, and conversations that inspire and challenge you. That means surrounding yourself with high-energy people who uplift you, push you, and bring out your best. That means eliminating distractions and focusing on what truly moves you forward. Because every time you let negative energy into your life, you lower your potential. Another key to raising your energy is emotional mastery. Your emotions are powerful drivers of your energy. When you operate in a state of gratitude, excitement, and purpose, your energy skyrockets. When you let stress, fear, and doubt take over, your energy plummets. The best performers in the world don't just react to their emotions, they generate the emotions they need to perform at their highest level. They cultivate gratitude daily. They focus on solutions instead of problems. They practice mindfulness, meditation, or visualization to keep their mental and emotional energy strong. They don't let outside circumstances dictate their internal state. They take full control of their energy, and because of that, they take full control of their life. Energy is not something you wait for, it's something you create. If you want to raise your life, raise your energy. Move with purpose. Fuel your body with the right nutrients. Guard your mind against negativity. Surround yourself with high-energy people. Choose powerful emotions. Demand more from yourself. Because the level at which you manage your energy is the level at which you experience life. Success does not belong to those who do what's easy. It belongs to those who do what is necessary, even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or demanding. The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who stay stuck in mediocrity is commitment, not interest, not wishes, not good intentions. Commitment, the unwavering decision that no matter what happens, no matter what challenges arise, you will follow through. Most people operate based on convenience. They work hard when they feel like it. They eat healthy when it's easy. They stay disciplined when life is going smoothly. But the moment things become inconvenient, uncomfortable, or challenging, they break. They allow excuses to dictate their actions. They negotiate with their goals. They justify procrastination. They say, I'll start tomorrow, I'm too tired, or I'll wait for the right time. And that's why they never get the results they want. They haven't committed. They're only interested. Commitment means no negotiation. It means you don't let how you feel in the moment decide whether or not you take action. You don't wait for motivation. You don't look for shortcuts. You don't back down when things get hard. You do what needs to be done, whether it's convenient or not. Commitment means you wake up and put in the work, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. It means you keep pushing even when no one is watching. It means you follow through, not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. Look at the people who achieve extraordinary success in any field. Do you think they only show up when it's convenient? Do you think elite athletes skip workouts because they're tired? Do you think top entrepreneurs only work when they feel inspired? No, they commit to their craft, their habits, and their discipline regardless of circumstances. They train when they don't feel like training. They show up when it's hard. They execute when they're exhausted. They understand that results don't come from what's easy. They come from what's necessary. Most people never reach their potential because they let inconvenience become an excuse. They say, I don't have time, but the truth is they don't make time. They say, I'm too tired, but the truth is they don't manage their energy. They say it's too hard, but the truth is they don't push past discomfort. Every excuse is a trade-off. You are either choosing your comfort now or your success later. And the reality is, every time you choose convenience over commitment, you are delaying your progress, weakening your discipline, and lowering your standards. Commitment is about building unshakable discipline. It's about keeping your word to yourself, even when no one is holding you accountable. It's about taking ownership of your goals, knowing that success isn't handed to you, it's earned. And that means sacrificing comfort, pushing past resistance, and doing the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. Because true commitment doesn't depend on feelings, it depends on standards. And when you commit at a high level, you stop allowing temporary discomfort to derail your long-term success. One of the greatest benefits of commitment is that it builds mental toughness. When you train yourself to show up despite adversity, you become stronger. Every time you push through resistance, you develop resilience. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, you become a person who follows through. And over time, this builds unstoppable confidence, because when you know you can count on yourself, nothing can shake you. But commitment isn't just about discipline, it's about identity. Who do you want to be? Someone who quits when it's hard? Someone who breaks promises to themselves? Someone who stays stuck because they let convenience dictate their future? Or do you want to be the kind of person who follows through no matter what? The kind of person who does the work whether or not it's easy? The kind of person who demands the best from themselves even when it's uncomfortable? Because your results will always match your level of commitment. The truth is, anyone can work hard when things are going well. Anyone can be disciplined when they're motivated. But champions are built when things get tough. High achievers are forged in the moments when it would be easier to quit, easier to procrastinate, easier to make excuses, but they refuse. They push through. They execute anyway, and that's why they succeed while others stay stuck. Because they don't choose what's easy, they choose what's necessary. Success is not the result of a single perfect plan executed flawlessly. It's the result of constant evaluation, adaptation, and refinement. The people who achieve extraordinary results in life are not the ones who get everything right on the first try. They're the ones who continuously measure their progress, identify what's working and what's not, and adjust their approach accordingly. If you aren't consistently tracking, assessing, and improving, you're not truly committed to mastery. Most people set goals, put in effort, and then hope things will work out. But hope is not a strategy. If you are not measuring your progress, you are flying blind. You don't know if you're improving. You don't know if your actions are effective. You don't know if you're on the right track. And that's why so many people work hard but still stay stuck. They never pause to evaluate. They assume that effort alone is enough, but effort without feedback and adjustment leads to wasted time and frustration. High performers operate differently. They don't just take action, they track their results. They look at the numbers, they analyze their habits, they ask, what's working, what's not? Where am I falling short? Where can I improve? And based on that data, they make precise adjustments to optimize their performance. If something isn't producing results, they don't keep doing it blindly. They refine their strategy. If something is working well, they double down. This continuous cycle of measure, adjust, improve is what separates the best from the rest. Think about an elite athlete. They don't just train randomly and hope they get better. They track their stats. They measure their speed, their endurance, their technique. They get real-time feedback from coaches and technology. If something is off, they adjust their form, tweak their diet, change their routine. They don't wait until the end of the season to figure out what's wrong. They course correct every single day. That's why they perform at such a high level, because they're constantly refining their approach. The same principle applies in business. The best companies don't just launch products and hope for the best. They track customer feedback, analyze sales data, and adjust their marketing strategies based on real-world results. They pivot when necessary. They optimize what's working. They eliminate what's not. And that's why they continue to grow while others fade away. The problem is, most people resist measurement because they fear the truth. They don't want to face their actual progress or lack thereof. They'd rather guess than confront hard data. But if you're not measuring, you're avoiding reality. And if you're avoiding reality, you cannot improve. You must be willing to look at the numbers, track your habits, analyze your actions, and be brutally honest about what needs to change. Tracking your progress doesn't just help you improve, it builds accountability. When you measure something, you take ownership of it. You stop making vague statements like, I've completed 90% of my goals this week. You stop assuming you're eating healthy and start tracking your actual food intake. You stop believing you're productive and start timing how much real work you're getting done. Measurement removes self-delusion and replaces it with clarity. And once you have clarity, adjustment becomes easy. If you see that your current strategy isn't working, you pivot. If you realize that a certain habit is holding you back, you change it. If you discover that you're making progress in one area but not another, you shift your focus. The key is to remain flexible and adaptable. Rigidity is the enemy of progress. If you are too attached to doing things a certain way, even when they're not working, you will stay stuck. But if you are willing to adapt, tweak, and refine, you will keep moving forward. The most successful people never stop adjusting. They don't just measure progress once a year. They do it daily, weekly, monthly. They constantly refine their goals, tweak their habits, and optimize their system. They embrace feedback even when it's uncomfortable. They don't take failure personally. They see it as data. They know that progress is not about perfection. It's about continuous improvement. So the question is, are you measuring your progress? Are you tracking your habits, your results, your performance? Are you making adjustments when things aren't working? Or are you just moving forward blindly, hoping things will improve on their own? Because success doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. And if you want to design a life of greatness, you must be willing to measure, adjust, and optimize every step of the way. Who you believe you are at your core determines the standards you set for yourself. Your identity, the way you see yourself, the story you tell yourself about who you are, acts as the foundation for every decision you make, every action you take, and every habit you form. If you see yourself as someone who is disciplined, driven, and capable, you will naturally set high standards and follow through on them. But if your identity is rooted in self-doubt, inconsistency, or past failures, your standards will reflect that. The truth is, you will never consistently outperform your identity. If you believe deep down that you are average, you will set average standards. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you will unconsciously create obstacles for yourself. If you tell yourself, I'm just not the kind of person who is fit, successful, or disciplined, your actions will reflect that belief. This is why so many people struggle to change. They focus on what they do without addressing who they believe they are. They try to force themselves into new habits, new routines, or new commitments, but because their identity hasn't changed, they eventually revert back to old patterns. Think about it. A person who identifies as an athlete doesn't have to convince themselves to work out. It's simply part of who they are. A person who sees themselves as a leader doesn't hesitate to step up in difficult situations. They expect it from themselves. A person who identifies as disciplined doesn't struggle with procrastination. They follow through because it's in their nature. Their standards are high, not because they have to force them, but because their identity demands it. The key to raising your standards isn't just about pushing yourself harder. It's about shifting your identity. Instead of just focusing on external goals, ask yourself, who do I need to become to make these standards non-negotiable? If you want to raise your standards in health, start seeing yourself as an athlete, not just someone who occasionally works out. If you want to raise your standards in business, start identifying as a high performer, not just someone trying to get ahead. If you want to improve your relationship, start viewing yourself as someone who is deeply present, caring, and committed. One of the fastest ways to change your identity is through consistent action. Every time you take an action that aligns with the person you want to become, you reinforce that identity. If you wake up early and go to the gym, you're not just exercising, you're proving to yourself that you are someone who values their health. If you prioritize deep work instead of distractions, you're not just being productive, you're reinforcing the belief that you are a disciplined person. Every action is a vote for the type of person you are becoming. But here's the challenge. Most people's identity is shaped by their past, not by their potential. They define themselves based on who they have been, what they have struggled with, and what they have failed at, rather than who they can become. They say things like, I've never been good at that, or I've always been this way, as if their past dictates their future. But your past does not have to be your identity. You can decide at any moment to rewrite your story. You can step into a new version of yourself right now by setting new standards and following through. And when you do, everything changes. Your identity will no longer be tied to old limitations. Your standards will no longer be dictated by fear, self-doubt, or past failures. You will start showing up differently, not because you're forcing yourself to, but because your identity has shifted. When you truly believe you are someone who operates at a high level, settling for less becomes unacceptable. Low effort becomes unthinkable. Mediocrity feels foreign. Because once you raise your identity, your standards automatically rise with it. So what's it going to be? Another year of good enough? Another year playing small? Or are you going to make the decision right now to step up, to raise your standards in your health, your relationships, your work, your life? Because the second you do, everything changes. The second you demand more, life will rise to meet you. It's time. Set the new standard and never lower it again.